From roommates to co-hosts, this is the Backcheck with Brendan Azoff and Stefan Rosner, your go-to destination for New York hockey and NHL news. And now it's time to drop the puck. Here are your hosts, Brendan Azoff and Stefan Rosner.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 19 of the Backcheck. Brendan and Stefan here. We got a very special guest in the New York Islanders radio play-by-play man, Chris King. I'm sure you're all very familiar with his voice, especially the Islanders fans. So we'll get to him in 1 second. Before we bring him on, I just wanted to say, first, Stefan, how you doing? But we are now a part of the Hockey Writers YouTube channel. Everyone go there, like and subscribe. This video and our show videos for every live episode from here on out will be found there as well. So go check them out, doing great things over there. Stefan, I'll let you kick things off and welcome our guest.
Yeah, so joining the show now is Chris King, Islanders radio broadcaster. And Chris, first off, going back to your call on Saturday of Mat Barzal's in between the legs goal, it got well-deserved praise. Awesome call, man.
Oh, thanks very much. It's funny. A lot of people have, been nice and had the compliments to me about that. But I just say, without Matt, that doesn't happen. So to me, that's all Matt. And it's kind of just happening in my lap. It just so happens, again, we're kind of down that end of the ice where we broadcast from now. So the Islanders actually hadn't scored a lot of second period goals at home this year. So they gave us a bunch in that game. And the leadoff one by Matt is still something that I think, easily the goal of the year of this season in the NHL. I don't know how anyone's going to possibly top it. There's just so many little elements that go into it that made it what it was. But that's all Mat Barzal, and he might be the only human being on the planet who could have pulled off something like that.
So we've seen Barzal do incredible things while he's been a part of the Islanders and in the NHL. You're seeing him come up the rink to go against Ristolainen. You see him get around him. I know you have to think and talk pretty much at the same time, but what is going through your head? Are you planning on he might score an incredible goal here. I got to make this a great call.
Well, you don't think I got to make this a great call, but you realize, Stefan, definitely when Mat Barzal has the puck, that anything like that can happen. There's no doubt about it. Like, there's certain energy and a certain juice, for me anyway, when he has the puck, because he's so creative, he's so fast. And that's like I talked about. There's so many different elements of that goal. The first thing is, again, it's a rolling puck that he's chasing. Okay, that's a hard thing to corral in itself. Then you talk about Ristolainen, and if you watch closely, Ristolainen actually takes his hand off his own stick, grabs Barzal by the arm, trying to pull him down, and Barzy kind of just sheds that, and it's Ristolainen who goes crashing to the ice. Then remember, he's the fastest skater in the NHL. He's going full speed when he gets to the top of the crease. Then he slams on the brakes, and at that point, oh yeah, I'll put the stick back between my legs. Then I'll put the puck on it, with it, and then I'll shoot it back the other way that I was coming after I bring Carter Hutton with me, to the other side. So it just, there was so many little things going on that. I don't know how he pulled it off, but yeah, every time he gets the puck, I think he can do something great because we've seen him do it so often. But that still, to me, was something that combined kind of all those elements of, the speed of Mat Barzal, the hands, the breaking ability, and the ability to think about that in a split second after he finally shed Ristolainen is just remarkable.
Yeah, so obviously, usually your calls are, you're the most energy. I've heard other people on the radio. No, every call, every time the Islanders do something, it's energizing. Whether I'm, half asleep behind the wheel after a hockey game, Chris King wakes me up. But do you need to take a second after a goal like that to collect your thoughts and go, what did I just see?
It's interesting about Stefan. That's a really good question because so many times I was thinking more about this too, because I said at the time, I really needed some time to compose myself. And I was still like just out of my mind insane at like, did I just see what I just saw? Brock Nelson scored like a minute and a half later, and I barely got that call out because my brain was still on Mat Barzal. And the more I thought about it, like when we've had incredible calls or I've had calls like that, a lot of them have been, overtime, double overtime winners where you don't have to be, composed in the next minute and a half because the game's over. But that was the kind of thing that was, almost an equal of an overtime winner, but yet the puck is dropped, 30 seconds later, and now you have to get back to doing what your job is. So, yeah, if I listen back to my call, that Nelson goal, it's terrible because my brain is still on Barzal. I can't get it out of my head that did I really just see what I think I saw? And I did. And, I get home that night and then I'm watching all the different angles and all the different replays, and it just gets better the more I see it. It doesn't, diminish it at all to see it from 12 different angles, because you see something different every time that maybe you didn't see the time before. And especially that low ice look that was shot by the Islanders. That's the one in slow-mo, the low ice look where you really see him, cut on the edges. The snow comes flying off his blade, and that's when he's going, with the puck and the stick between the legs and somehow, sliding it back post. It was incredible.
Yeah, it really was. That goal was unreal. And I know that I was texting Stefan about it right away. I said, I can't believe I just saw that. And I remember going earlier in the season when Philip Edel did a Forsberg-esque move against the Penguins, and all the Rangers fans had that similar type of jubilation. But this goal just took it to the next level, and it was just phenomenal talent. But after 3 wins against the Sabres and then the slim win over the Bruins last night, do you think the Islanders are peaking, or do you think that this is just the level that they're going to be at the rest of the season?
Yeah, it's a good question, Brendan. I think, you could say peaking, but it's been so consistent, right? It's 6 wins in a row. It's points in 9 straight games, and it's now points in 17 of the last 19. So, I don't know if when you get to the peak, right? Because what can you do other than keep winning, right? And,
exactly.
And last year, we had something just like this around a similar time. It was a couple of weeks into the season. They rattled off that 10-game winning streak and a franchise record 17-game point streak. This feels a lot like that because, they're finding a different way to win every night. They're winning all different types of games. They've won 1-0 games and they've won 7-2 games. And they're just getting contributions from everybody, all 4 lines, all 3 deep pairs, and now especially both goaltenders. Early on in this run, obviously it was mostly just Varley, but now we're seeing Ilya Sorokin, get a regular turn to play, and he's been terrific in, his last couple of starts. So, yeah, I think you could say they're peaking, and the goal is just to keep it going right now because the division is so tight. It is a truncated season. They're going to hit the midpoint of the season come Saturday night already, so it's going by quickly, but it's been a fun run, very similar to last year's early season run.
Yeah, definitely. You kind of segued that too to our next one, right, Stefan? I mean,
I love it.
He's a pro.
I love when that works out. So you spoke about last year's, win streak, point streak, and obviously the big difference is the injury bug. The Islanders, who knows how well they could have kept that going if Pelech doesn't go down, if the fourth line doesn't get banged up. Besides that injuries, what is the difference you're seeing from that streak last year to this streak this year?
Yeah, I don't know that there are that many differences, Stefan. I really don't. And again, the thing you're talking about is more towards the end of the year. Remember, the Pelech injury was really more in January, and then obviously Cizikas kind of toward the pause in March. And remember that 17-game point streak actually started last year. Actually, I believe it started the 5th game of the year in. They actually started 1-3 last year and then went on that incredible run. So it was like week 2, week 3 when that run began. And this is really kind of week 3, week 4, I think, if you look back on it when this one began. So I just see more similarities than differences. I really would almost be hard-pressed to find a difference because of the fact of, the things I just talked about, like where everybody's contributing. And being healthy is a part of it, though. Absolutely. They haven't had a devastating injury like they had so many last year. And if you think about how they ended last year before the pause, it was just the opposite. They were winless in 7, and I think they had 2 wins in the last 13 games before the pause, which is almost exactly a year ago right now. So, they were struggling when that pause happened, and it might have been the best thing for them, to take that long break, and then obviously came firing all cylinders out of the chute in return to play in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
So you look back at, the Sabres series where they take 3 games, 5-2, 5-2, 5-2, which impressive in itself. That's able to happen. I did reach out to Eric Hornick to ask him. He didn't respond if that was the first time that happened. Then you look at last night's game, and the Islanders went into it 3-0-0 against the Bruins this season. Was last night, you think, a major statement game? Because, again, Buffalo's been not a great team this year. They should beat them, even though they've had Boston's number this whole year. How important do you think the win was to get that slim lead, especially after trailing, come out on top with 2 points?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I'll tell you about the Sabres series, too. The way I put it last night on the air, I said, it's funny. When you win a tennis match, you have to win 6 games, right? And obviously you hear a lot about, they took them in straight sets, right? Well, I said, they beat the Sabres in straight sets, 5-2, 5-2, 5-2, right? So it's almost like a tennis match. And I just think all the wins against the Bruins, to me, guys, were equally important. And to now be 4-0 against Boston, you have to remember a year ago, and not just a year ago, actually coming into this year, they'd only beaten the Bruins once in the last 10 games. So the Bees had dominated the Islanders. It was the one team they couldn't figure out. And if you think about it, the most amazing part of being 4-0 against Boston right now is all 4 of those games were tied going into the third period. Every one of them. So they just had dominating third periods, in the first 3. And then last night, nobody scored in the third period. They found a way to finally win a game beyond 60 minutes, which is something they hadn't done all year. They and the Montreal Canadiens were the only 2 teams that hadn't won a game that went beyond 60 minutes. So, they couldn't get it done in overtime, but they found a way in the skills competition, if you will, to shoot out a great goal by Eberle and then an even better one by Beauvillier going Franz Nielsen on us with that backhand roof under the bar. That's something they needed to do. So I think just more of the point, win a game beyond 60 minutes, having not done that was key. And again, look, if the playoffs started tonight, guess who they're playing? The Boston Bruins, because the Bruins dropped to 4th with that loss. Islanders stayed in the top spot. And, sometimes you just have that mental hurdle to get over when a team owns you, like the Bruins had over the Islanders the last couple of years. And they are certainly over that now, beating them all 4 times so far.
I mean, you look back to – hold on one second. But you look back to last year, and I remember – on Butch Scoring's jersey retirement, they played the Bruins. And while it wasn't a 6-1 or a big win by the Bruins dominated, and you just thought of Islanders just can't beat the Bruins. They just can't do it. They can't do it at home. They can't do it away. And this year has just been complete 180. But Brendan, get to your question.
Well, I just wanted to ask, before we let him go, that he brought up the shootout. So are you a proponent of extending 3-on-3, or are you a fan of the shootout?
Big proponent of extending 3-on-3, Brendan. I think that's, so exciting. At least give it 10 minutes. Let's at least give it 10 minutes. I think how much, is an extra 5 minutes of 3-on-3, which usually features very few whistles, right? So what would that add to a game? 6, 7 minutes, maybe 8 minutes tops. I love the 3-on-3. I love the creativity of it. I love the, odd man rushes when it gets going end to end to end to end. Even last night, right? Both teams had great chances in overtime to win that. So yeah, to me, it's almost anticlimactic when you go to the shootout to try to end it. I know they want to have a winner and a loser, and they don't want it to run all night. But, why not go to, 10-minute 3-on-3 and then see how many more games you would decide that way rather than having to go to the skills.
Completely agree.
My last question for you. So speaking about that, in overtime, is it harder for a broadcaster to do because it could be so back and forth, or does it slow down a little bit? Because sometimes they set up in the offensive zone, they cycle. Is it easier on you?
Yeah, it's a good question, Stefan, and I think it is. You know what? It's a couple of things. It does slow down because possession is king, right? Everybody holds on to the puck forever. And the fact for me, instead of trying to identify 5 players on each side, it's now just down to 3-on-3. So what I'm normally doing is every time there's a whistle, I am literally looking at, okay, who are the 3 guys out there for the Islanders? Who are the 3 guys out there for the other side? Kind of getting that into my brain. And then, knowing I'm not going to, have a surprise where someone I didn't see come on the ice scores the goal, because you can really see the changes. They almost always occur in that possession game where a team will skate back into their own end. They'll change the other 2 guys. Then the guy who had the puck will dish it and get off, and he'll be replaced. So it's just very easy to see the change. It's very easy to identify the players. And as you said, it does slow down because there's so much possession. There is so much of just the same player holding on to the puck that it makes it a little easier to call in that regard. And again, the only pressure of it comes in, you want to get the call right. Obviously, when the goal is scored that ends the game, whether it's for the Islander side or the other side, you just want to get the call right. And with less players on the ice, it's very rarely on a deflection or on a puck, off somebody else and into the net, that type of thing. It's usually the guy who shoots it is the guy who wins the game, not, having it hit off someone else and go in directly.
So, Chris, thank you so much for joining us for a little bit. We really do appreciate it. We always love having you on, and good luck on the call tomorrow night against the Devils.
All right. Thanks, Stefan. Thanks, Brendan. Always great being on the back check. And I heard you guys say at the top, it's episode 19. That's my whole life. Brian Trache, 19 in the rafters. So I think it was fitting that I was on tonight. It was meant to be.
There you go.
Perfect.
It writes itself.
Take care, guys.
See ya. He's just a great interview every single time. The knowledge, we've talked to Steve Cangelosi, we've talked to Jameson Coyle, and, you talk to them, I like to say friend to friend, the way you talk to other people, and they just rattle stuff off that I have written down. I wrote down the 6-game win streak, 11-0-2 at home, 17 in the last 19 games, 18 points, whatever. See, I can't even remember it. And Chris King's just rattling that stuff off. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's a force of habit for him, right? I think it was Pierre Maguire during the bubble that sent the picture out of his game sheets and all the notes that he takes for each game. So after a while of doing that, you kind of just get into the habit of retaining it and rattling it out. And he does it so great. Cangelosi did it awesome as well. It's crazy to see how effortless it is for them when you have us who are scrambling like we were 2 minutes before this show started just to get the stream working because I had to go to Myrtle Beach and the Wi-Fi was crapping out. So
Yeah.
I'm now outside doing this. A little cold.
Oh,
but
it's cold in Myrtle. What is it, like 60?
No, the sun's starting to go down though, so it's going to drop below 50 soon.
Yeah, so the one other thing I want to say about Chris King is I want to applaud him because I know it's his job to get pronunciations right, but I didn't send him anything, and he got my name right again. So twice in a row, that never happens when we have a guest come on. Usually the first time they botch it, then they learn. Chris King's been absolutely perfect. So thank you, Chris King, for pronouncing my name right. And Brendan's, even though yours is a little more straightforward.
Well, when you pronounce names like Bjorkstrand and stuff that the Islanders play, I think Stefan comes relatively easy, even though your name is spelled wrong, and it is Stefan.
It's just not spelled right. But anyway, two more things I want to get to about the Islanders before we take a quick commercial break and talk Rangers is, did you see Brad Marchand yesterday? Brendan jumped Wallstrom. Did you see the play?
I did not get to watch that game last night.
Wait, you were a little
I was watching the Rangers game. Okay,
Yeah.
They played at the same time, and I was very disappointed, and I then enjoyed my Myrtle Beach experience.
Oh, let's not get bummed out about the Rangers just yet. So, flashback to last Friday. We know what happened to Brendan Carlo. Tom Wilson just completely crushed him. I don't care what anybody says. Dirty hit, dirty thought. Marchand jumps him. All that happens. Last night, Oliver Wahlstrom goes to hit Connor Clifton, which probably would have been a boarding call, not a game misconduct. He probably would have hit him from behind. And Clifton skids out, like he loses an edge and falls down. As he's falling down, Wahlstrom hits him. Again, not intentional at all. And Brad Marchand loses his you-know-what. Jumps Wahlstrom. Wahlstrom's on the ring, throws the gloves out, starts throwing punches at him. He does get the instigator. Wahlstrom goes to the box, which at first I didn't know why. Watching the hit again, okay, it's a boarding call. But Marchand lost his mind. Completely understandable from what happened with Tom Wilson. But, oh my God, did he need to be contained, because he might have done major damage to Wahlstrom, because Wahlstrom is down in the rink. And I thought, first off, we talked about Brad Marchand, how you hate to play against him, but if he's on your team, you probably love him. And what that showed was just leadership. He wears the A, and we could call him a pest. He licks people, all that stuff. Him and Komarov got into a little bit yesterday, and just flashback to when he was on the Maple Leafs and licked Komarov. And you never forget when someone licks you, Brendan. You just never do. But I kind of don't even go there, Brendan. But I kind of think back, and I was pissed off at Marchand for doing it to Wahlstrom. But at the same time, if I'm on his, the injured Pasternak, and what does that show? And he goes, it shows team, leadership, all that kind of stuff. I do kind of give Marchand credit for doing that. Completely not needed given the situation, but he's not looking at the intent there. He sees his guy get absolutely crushed in a similar fashion to what we saw happen to Carlos. So I don't know how you thought about that.
It's like Tom Wilson. You hate to play against them, but you would die to have them on your team. And you could say, oh, I don't want Tom Wilson. Yeah, you do want Tom Wilson. Tom Wilson is the Islanders' fourth line put together on roids. And I think that those players, as much as opposing fans might hate them and NHL players, safety might hate them at times, they have a place in the game. And Marchand is very, very skilled too. If he's sticking up for his teammate and it was a questionable hit, he has a right to lose his mind, right? And Wahlstrom's a big boy. He can defend himself. I think that what makes hockey unique from every other sport is that accountability that has to be held by players amongst themselves, right? In baseball, right, that's prime example is you see it all the time. When somebody throws behind them, the umpire gets involved, throws them out, and it's done, right? There's no accountability there. That's why pitchers still throw at hitters, and hitters, they have nothing to do to the pitchers because what can they do? So in hockey, we don't have that. If you do something that's deemed questionable and it's questionable, very well the next game somebody's going to confront you about it, and you're going to have to settle the score on the ice. And to me, that should always be a part of the game.
Oh, I completely agree. If people that don't want hockey fighting in the game, it doesn't make any sense to me, because I'd rather them fight, get the energy out there, boost up their team's morale if they win the fight or lose, depending, but also stress relief. If you eject them every time people don't like each other, I just think that's pointless. You look at other sports, the old joke was baseball suspension, basketball suspension, hockey 5 minutes and you can do it again. Like, that's the greatness of it. If you don't like violence, you probably should be watching hockey. That's just my take.
Yeah, and for all the people who say it's just a penalty, like you should be suspended or it should be illegal to fight, it is illegal to fight. It's a major penalty. It's a 5-minute penalty. That it's not in the rule book that you're allowed to fight. It's just you don't get kicked out for it. It became part of the game, which it should always be. But I think we should take these commercial breaks so that we can, rattle off some Islanders and Rangers topics.
All right, I think we will too. Back-to-back commercials. We'll see you guys again in a minute.
Hey everybody, it's Brendan here. Do you have old jerseys? What about old hockey equipment? Rather than throw these items out, our friends over at Alternate would love to have them. This nonprofit converts jerseys into reusable face masks, the same face mask the New York Rangers wore in the bubble this past postseason. The old equipment you donate will be given to less fortunate children throughout the state. It doesn't matter what team you root for. Let's all come together to make a difference and grow the sport of hockey. To learn more, head to alternate.com. That's alternate.com.
SUNY Cortland Sport Management is a proud sponsor of the Backcheck. In the SUNY Cortland Sport Management program, students get hands-on training in sport event management and sport media production. The Sport Management Department is the oldest sport-specific major in New York State and boasts an impressive list of alumni, something me and Brendan know a lot about. To get more info about the program, go to cortland.edu/SPM or look up Cortland SPMG on your favorite social media. SUNY Cortland Sport Management, where the tomorrow's sport industry leaders practice their craft.
All right.
So before we get to the Rangers, the depressing Rangers and all that's happened with them, I mean, Panarin's back, so we could talk about that. But the last thing I want to talk about is Semyon Varlamov fell again yesterday. And it was a bad sequence. They're on the power play, and the point guy fakes a shot, slap passes it. He's all the way out of his crease. So if the shot came, he probably makes a very good aggressive save. But the shot never came. Puck goes to the corner. You see Varlamov all, wobbling in his net. He gets interfered with, falls down, then Pasternak from downtown scores on a goal that really should never go in. This is the second time this season on the power play Varlamov has lost an edge or whatever the case may be. But what I will give him credit for is he wasn't his best game. I know on Twitter everyone's battling off stats to me, Stefan, your take's completely wrong. It's just not. So you watch the game, and while he made 32 saves, and then he denied people in the shootout, stopping Marchand with poetic justice, stopping Marchand to end the shootout. He wasn't as sharp with his rebound control, but he bowed. He had an incredible stick paddle save earlier in the game, a huge blocker save in overtime. And for Varlamov and Sorokin, it's more Sorokin. It's the fact that he hasn't had to be great to get wins. They played a Buffalo Sabres team. They didn't allow a lot of shots on goal. But Varlamov, when he's in there, he gets tested. And if he's not in this game, especially against the Bruins team, it's going to be a tough night. Fortunately, the defense in front of him did help him out. The rebound control wasn't as sharp, but he found a way. The Islanders just find a way, and they've been doing that the whole entire season. That's why they're in first place. And 4-0-0 against the Boston Bruins. It's not something I would ever think that would come out of my mouth. So how good of a performance can they have against the Bruins going down the stretch? I know Rask didn't play; he's hurt. The Bruins are slumping, but the NHL in a short 56-game season, you have to take advantage of every little thing that happens to every team. Those teams that take advantage of that, whether it's against the worst teams in their division going undefeated or against top teams struggling, you've got to take advantage.
Yeah, they have so far. But like Chris King said, this has happened last year. So we basically talked about it on Sunday too, that this next stretch coming up is where I think they prove how good they are, or if they are a decent team that's going to make the playoffs but has some flaws when they play quality opponents. But they battled against the Bruins team, right? I mean, it was a good game, good hard-fought playoff style game.
It was a playoff game, and the Islanders win those close playoff games, and we'll transition to the Rangers.
The difference is, in the playoffs, there's no shootout.
Well, it's fine because the Islanders win bad in overtime anyway.
But there's no 3-on-3. So it becomes a grind it out. And that game had the feel of, for me just watching stats and from the little bit I did see, it had the feel of a game that was going to go double OT where, it would be a heartbreaker for one fan base and the other would be ecstatic. So I like that, because if we're going to have some good series like that, then I wouldn't mind if the Rangers weren't in it. So my heart can keep normal pace in my chest.
Yeah, I might need a pacemaker if it's gonna happen. But Brendan, the biggest news of the day is, besides the ESPN deal, which I would put second to, Artemi Panarin is back for the Rangers. He's not going to play tomorrow, but he's back practicing.
He's back, so is Shesterkin. So there's optimism coming in the next week or so, we hope. I don't think Panarin should be out much longer than the next game because he's not playing tomorrow. But really, it's just getting your legs under you at that point. Shesterkin, it's up in the air because it is a groin injury still. So we will see when he's ready. I would not rush it. At this point, I don't think they have a chance.
I see what you did there. You wouldn't rush it?
Oh, God. Wow, that was a stretch. I didn't even mean to come close
groin
to that.
injury. Oh.
Okay, I'm on an unintentional roll right now. You got to roll
You
it out.
should have said you're on a tear. And
he didn't know. No, that's jinxing it. He didn't tear anything. It was a strain. But we gotta hope that he could come back at the same strength. And I think this season's over. I know that they're going to play the same teams, and I'm going to get people that say, "Well, we got to have some optimism. Panarin's coming back." I have no optimism because they haven't proven that they could win any single game of relevance this whole season. Fans got excited over a 3-game win streak against the Devils and Sabres, and they play the Pittsburgh Penguins, who are a borderline playoff team right now, and they got completely exposed. And they don't have the depth to compete, and they don't have the finishing ability right now. I can't tell you how many shots Zibanejad flubbed yesterday. I can't tell you how many chances Buchnevich missed in the last 2 minutes of that game. They make every single goaltender look like Patrick Roy, and those are the games you got to win. You got to find ways to win if you want to be a playoff team. And I can't get angry because they're still young, so I have faith that next year it'll be a different scenario. And as people continue to develop and stay healthy, it'll change. But right now, if you look at this team and you think that they can make the playoffs with their inability to win big games or finish their chances, you're really mistaken.
So when you think about the effort from the club, from the Rangers after last night's game, is the effort there because the goal they had the bad line change on looked like the most, I'm listening to Boomer and Gio this morning on WFAN, and Boomer's talking about how the Rangers and the Knicks right now are like similar in the fact that even if they don't win the games, they're putting forth complete total effort. And I just thought back to that goal they allowed on the bad line change where it was a lackadaisical change. That's just not giving 110% there. That really bothered me as a hockey fan to see that happen.
Yeah, I think that the effort is there. Because, like I said, these are all one-goal games, I mean, they had the chance to tie this game and send it to overtime. And I don't think that they played well the first period and a half, 2 periods. I thought they were really slow. They looked awful. They were the worst team in both periods, but they just find ways to hang around. It's like they know that the Rangers fans want to see them win so bad that they'll hang around just so that they can make the losses hurt even more. I'd rather them lose every single game 5-0. That way I have no expectations. But no, they stick around just enough so that you got to go, oh, there's a chance we can come back. No, we can't come back because we can't finish. And every single goalie looks like they're going to win the Vezina against the Rangers team. But their effort's there. It's been there. It's inconsistent. And we talked with Statboy Steven about it last week, right? What was bad? What led to a goal?
That line change where it comes back to the coaches. But I can't really blame Quinn there because it's just it was no hustle.
He gave the example last week when he said they fired Claude Julien and they talked about how he wouldn't even no players knew when to go. And there's just miscommunications that happen that lead to things. And eventually you can say all you want, right? Okay, the players got to play and score.
Oh,
it's coaching too.
No, it's coaching, but it's just, whoever it was that last to get off the rink, the Penguins would come up the rink, and this guy is still, I don't remember who it was, just gliding across the ice, getting to the bench. And in my head, I'm going, I don't care how young or old you are. It's a line change. You
bust
if you are out of breath, you bust your and you to the bench. You don't glide there, especially when the Penguins are holding it behind their own net, which happens often where both teams get line changes and that. No, the Penguins saw what was happening at the Rangers, a lackadaisical change, fed the puck up, they score. And you look back and go, that's easily avoidable if someone just hustles off the rink. Forget the confusion on the bench. If that's the case, that's on Quinn. But I got to blame the player if you're not going to hustle to the bench. And there's no excuse for that.
There's not. But I'm going to write an article about another player who, when we talk about David Quinn, right? A lot of the things that he's drawn the ire of Rangers fans is his scratches, line changes, his short leash when it comes to certain players. But one player whose leash seems to wrap around MSG 45 times is Brett Howden. And when I say a player does nothing, that's Brett Howden. You can't point to anything that he does terrible, but you sure as hell can't point to anything he does well. And he is the most non-impactful player I've ever watched play the game of hockey. He's a detriment to the Rangers because he can't do anything. He's physically not capable of playing the sport at this level. And everybody else gets scratched. Everybody else gets benched. Everybody else gets sent down. Somehow, some way, this man never gets scratched, never gets benched, never misses a shift. And he doesn't do anything. He doesn't have a goal this year. Jack Johnson has now scored a goal before he has scored a goal this year. He doesn't block shots. He kills penalties. That's why he stays in the lineup. He kills penalties, and he has a good defensive zone faceoff percentage. And he's a very good penalty killer. Okay, send him down, let him kill penalties for Hartford because Colin Blackwell can kill penalties. You can put somebody else that can kill penalties. Their penalty kill right now is at 96% over the last whatever. It's 53 for 56. It's absurd. Let them take a small little hit on that PK, let it drop to 90%, and let's get a little more offensive production from one of these younger kids that's willing to grind and do something and show something. Let Morgan Barron come up, who's scoring in Hartford, and have a chance. Because I can't watch a nothing player anymore. Great guy, tries hard, doesn't produce.
Well, we talked about it. I mean, you could think about Michael Dalcoe, who does a lot more than Howden, and we've seen him take a step up this year. But we spoke early before the season started that in a shortened season, doesn't matter if you are a veteran of 10 years or a rookie or a depth player or fringe player, you get an opportunity to take it. But if you're not coming through and not doing things, you got to come out. And that really hasn't happened with the Rangers. Look at the Islanders, and Bellows had a bad game. Guess what? He hasn't played in 2 weeks. He hasn't gotten the opportunity again. And Trotz said, you come into this league, you come into a team, you're in the middle of a 56-game season. You don't make the most of your opportunity. You don't play. The next person that gets a chance does make the opportunity, like Wallstrom has. He stays in the lineup. And I feel like for the Rangers, their players, veteran or rookies or fringe players, aren't making the most of their opportunities, but there's no punishment for them. When I say punishment, I mean go sit in the press box for a game or two, collect your thoughts, make a statement to the rest of the team that, hey, it doesn't matter how long you've been in this league. It's about what you're doing now. And I'm not saying bench Mika Zibanejad, but it comes a time where if he's not doing anything, at least sit him down for a game or two or bench him during the game just to make statement to the – they benched him, right? And did it work?
They benched him. I mean, he's got – I want to say he's got 6 points over the last 8 games. He's playing better. He's just not finishing still. He finally had a Zibanejad goal against Pittsburgh the other day, but he still is getting all these chances and just he's missing the shots. As good as he shot the puck last year, as poorly as he's shooting this year, I think the benching worked. It sent the message. He's looked better since. He's looked like he's had more jump to his step, but it's just not the same Zibanejad. The best way I can put it is we know where he likes to line up, right? I talked about it on the power play. He likes to line up in that OV spot. Last year, he was ripping shots, and every shot he took from there seemed like it was finding the net. And now every shot he takes seems like it's finding a way not to go into the net. So it's just one of those years.
How do you think about Keith Kincaid? Local kid gets his first start as a Ranger, first start in what, a year or so, and then National Hockey League. How do you think he played?
His first start since 2019.
Yeah,
November of 2019. He played all right. Yeah, the Penguins had 3 expected goals against and expected goals for, and he gave up 3, so it wasn't spectacular. I think he played much better in relief of Georgiev the previous game. The Bluger goal that he gave up on that was shorthanded.
Yeah,
you got to stop. I mean, I know it's a bad read by the defenders there, and they kind of cut to the middle, and he got in, but he was sliding. Your paddle's got to be down. You can't let that squeak through.
He was very, very soft on his stick, and if he just keeps his paddle down hard on the ice, that puck hits it. But quick story about Keith Kincaid, which will always haunt me until the end of time. So, I don't know, maybe it was 10 years ago. I was doing a hockey camp. He was Jim Bosenberg or Mike Bosenberg. I forgot the coach's name, but Keith Kincaid was one of his clients growing up, a young goalie, and he worked his way up, and he came down to help. And, I'm talking to him. I'm a little kid talking to him, and I think this is when he was first on. It was the Albany Devils, and I think it was his first season signing with them or drafted. And he's talking to us about how he has to practice his signature. They're teaching him how to do that. So I'm all right, sign my glove. So he signs little Stefan's glove. Again, he's not in the NHL yet. Never crossed mine. A couple years later, still not in the NHL. Gave the glove away. And I gave it to a neighbor. It was an older glove, and he didn't have hockey equipment. So I was like, I'll be a nice guy. Keith Kincaid's not. I mean, haven't heard his name, so here you go. Yeah, so when I found out that he made it to the NHL, I was like, I need to get this glove back. I go back. I guess the glove was used so much that the signature wasn't even visible anymore. It was Sharpie on the equipment, but I still have the memories of talking to him. I remember asking him, "Oh, you grew up a Ranger fan or an Islander fan?" He's like, "I don't want to tell you." Worked with him, awesome guy, and he's gotten his chance at the NHL level. It hasn't been a consistent starting gig, but he made it to the NHL. And as a local kid, seeing that as a young goaltender, seeing how cool it was that he was practicing signatures and getting there. It shows a lot to the younger goaltenders. I know he probably works with goalies now and everything like that. And it just doesn't matter if you play one game in the NHL, 500 or 1,000 like Patty Kane just did. You got there, and that just automatically is hard work, dedication, determination, and believing in yourself. And that's all things that young kids should look up to in a player in person.
Most definitely, completely agree. And I've been practicing my signatures too. The difference is mine is just signing away my money on student loans as opposed to signing autographs for the NHL. So his is a lot more lucrative than my signature practice is. But he hadn't played since 2019. He looked good, right? He did his job. I think it should have been flipped. If I was the coach, I would have flipped it. But I said on the last show, I don't blame Quinn for that because it's a weird situation. Usually you have your starter and a backup, and I think normally it would have been Shesterkin getting that start. Wouldn't have even been an issue. But now you have a guy who you're trying to ride in Georgiev and another guy in Kincaid who hasn't played. So do you really want to risk putting him in and losing a potentially big game? And Georgiev wound up losing the game instead. So I think he did all right. I wasn't blown away, but hey, he was serviceable. He did his job. He gave the Rangers a chance to win, and the Rangers, if they could finish, would have had a chance to not only get 1 point but 2. So that's all you can ask from your third string.
It's so comical when I hear Ranger fans, specifically you, say they just have to finish. When this was just an offense that just finished last year. Zibanejad finished 40-something times. Panarin finished. This was an offensive-minded team.
I'm trying to keep that in perspective, too. I'm trying to, because if Panarin's on the ice, those chances go in. Now, he might not even be the one scoring it, but somehow, some way, when he passes the puck, it just finds a way to go in. It's an uncanny ability to set people up in just certain spots where the goaltender can't get across. And you watch other people do it, and you wonder what's the difference, right? Because every single player in the NHL is elite. Right? You take a fourth-line scrub on some team.
Good John Scott.
John Scott would light up any league, up offensively. So you take now the elite offensive players, and what makes those players just a nick above the elite? And it's that ability to just put the puck in a certain spot where if I made that pass, the goalie can get across and stop it. But if he makes the pass, there's no way. He just disguises it better. He makes it more accurate. To me, they needed him out there in that stretch. That's where they miss him most. They can kind of cover him around, and anytime you have Panarin out, it's going to be a loss. But in tight games, when you need a goal or you need somebody to step up and make a play, Panarin's that guy.
So what do you think it is, though, about this? You think it's a confidence thing where they've been denying so many chances or have missed so many chances that, they need a big game where they score 6, 7 goals to get – because once this offense gets going, I know what you said. You think it's mental, but hold on one second. It's never too – I personally don't think it's too late for the Rangers, but they would need a catastrophic turnaround. And it doesn't matter what teams in front of them do if they're not going to win games. It starts with them. If they get on a little streak here and they win games – if they had just gotten their offensive going off the bat, maybe a week or two into the season, they win all these close games because they find a way to get it done. They were doing that all of last year, and it was the defense failing them. And we're just back to this like next year. You just hope that the Rangers offense wakes up because if this happens again next year where the offense is sluggish,
yep.
It significantly hurts this rebuild, which should really, if the offense was explosive this year and the defense was the same thing, you can't call this a rebuild anymore. They're a team. They're a contender. But the fact that this is taking your rebuild and adding an extra year when it really shouldn't be a rebuild anymore, in my opinion.
It's tough because they just had the first overall pick. So anytime you just get the first
completely
overall
agree.
pick,
but
yeah, the thing that I see, they're 24 games in. So you got 32 games left. The only way that this team can sniff the playoffs is if over those 32 games, Igor Shesterkin winds up making a run for the Calder and playing that well. If Mika Zibanejad can score 15 goals over those 32 games, and if Artemi Panarin could put up over 40 points in those 32 games. Well, it won't even be 32 games. If he could put up over 40 points in the next 30 games that he plays, That's the
So
only way they come close.
before we take a commercial, we talk about the big new hockey deal with ESPN, Walt Disney, all that stuff. I was curious to see that Panarin wasn't. He was taking a couple of days, and I know he hasn't skated and stuff, but can't think it's more than a game or two that he's out, right?
No, I think it just one.
Just one to get his
I
bearings
would
back.
I would personally I would take a Panarin at 50% over who else that's going to be in the lineup. You know, it comes to the point. It's like in basketball. Would you take a LeBron James that's a little banged up or not playing to his full potential over your bench players? Yeah, any day of the week. Same thing with Panarin. If he has the ability to play through the cardio of it, let him go out there.
So my mindset is he probably wants to play real bad. I'm assuming this is the team telling him to take a day to, injuries. But I think the best medicine for what he went through, and again, we're not in his head. We don't know exactly what happened, but it was a scary time for him and his family. I feel like he just wants to get back out there. So I think this is more of a franchise coach decision. I'm assuming he was begging to get back out there tomorrow, and that's just not what they're going to do.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, there's no point in rushing. Like I said, you got Shesterkin who's still out, so they've played decently well without Panarin. I mean, outside of these two bad games against Pitt, they had won 6 of their last 8 before that. So let them go one more. Let's see if the younger players can get that one game to bring their confidence up. And once he steps back in, we had talked about this on earlier shows. It's either going to be a Kakko, Edel line. It's going to be Kreider and Edel. One of these big name players is going to be dropping into that third line, and they're going to have a top 9 that's dangerous.
When we come back from this commercial break, we will talk about the new deal with ESPN. Also, want to ask Brendan about Jack Eichel. So stay tuned and give us 30 seconds, and we'll be right back.
Hey guys, Stefan here. Each night on Long Island, 180,000 residents will go hungry, 39% of which are kids who have no ability to control their situation. Our friends over at Long Island Hockey Co. are trying to help as many families as possible. Each hat sold on their website will provide 50 meals for food insecure Long Islanders. Head to longislandhockeyco.com and let's help the people in our community.
All right, Brendan. So big news out of Buffalo today. Jack Eichel is hurt, quote unquote, hurt. So my question to you is, add Jack Eichel to this offense. Jack Eichel, who has struggled as of late. Do you think one player is the what they need? One player will change this offense completely, or do you think it's more of if Jack Eichel comes, he can do all he can, but this offense has to wake up with his arrival?
Jack Eichel's very good at hockey.
Oh, correct.
He's having a tough year in the midst of a season where he wants to get out of that godforsaken situation that seems to never get itself right. So I think a change of scenery for him would do absolute wonders. What would they have to give up? I've always said I'd rather have the proven player than a prospect. Always, no matter what the situation is. I don't care. Lafreniere could have so much talent, but if he doesn't pan out and you had the opportunity to get Jack Eichel, how does that look 5 years from now? Now, I personally wouldn't give up Lafreniere. That's not what I'm saying. But if they ask for what people deem as too much of a prospect package, you got to think of the player getting in return. Not only is he an elite player when he's right, but this is a guy that's a center. The one position that you've been longing for outside of Mika Zibanejad, you haven't had a center that can come in. If you can potentially keep Zibanejad and have a 1-2 of Eichel Zibanejad, I mean, that's pretty dang good. I think what they should do is the best hospitals in the world are in New York City. I think that they should medevac him if this injury is as serious as it's being made to be out in Buffalo. Medevac him to New York City and just keep him there. And we'll medevac some players back for Buffalo, and we'll just do it off the books.
If they trade Jack Eichel to whatever team, the Sabres, you think Hall just says, you know what, I'm going to sit out the rest of the season, guys? I mean, he went there for one reason. His one reason, and I quote, was Jack Eichel deserves to play in the playoffs. And I'm going to pat myself on the back because I took so much, for saying the Sabres are worse than the Devils. They're going to finish behind. No, the Sabres are a playoff team. We're talking to some friends that said the Sabres were better than the Islanders. No, it's the Sabres. They are a joke, a complete, utter joke of a franchise. And I have no idea what they have to do to fix it. They might as well just nuke it, move to Atlanta, become the Atlanta Thrashers, because that fan base is electric. They still have a Twitter page that probably gets more interactions daily than the Sabres Twitter page does. So move them back to Atlanta, get the Atlanta Thrasher jerseys back out there. Maybe Nordiques. Why not? But Buffalo, I mean, upstate New York or Western New York for our Western New York viewers, that's a hockey place. They need hockey to be good there, and they've waited. Islander fans and Sabre fans have a lot in common, where it's darkness for just years of a stretch, and the Islanders have turned around. But Taylor Hall's not going to be there next season. I know they said they're talking on a long-term deal. They can talk what they want. Taylor Hall's not picking up the damn cell phone. He's just not. It makes no sense.
Somebody should tell Taylor Hall that if he really wants to help Jack Eichel make the playoffs, he should start to play better.
I mean, against the Islanders, he scored a goal. Jeff Skinner scored a goal. Two guys that were slumping. Jeff Skinner's contract. I mean,
what does he have? 2 goals?
Jeff Skinner has.
No, Skinner has 1.
Taylor Hall has. I think Taylor Hall has 2 or 3. I think he scored his second against the Islanders. I'm not sure if he's scored since then.
Well, he might want to score a little more if he wants to help Jack Eichel make the playoffs and have success there, buddy. So come on.
I mean, enough about Buffalo just because it hurts. It really just hurts. I feel so bad for the fan base just because at least they have their football. They have their football. Jake Allen seems like
good.
Jake Allen.
You are. What a mess.
Wrong sport. Great quarterback there. But let's get to the big news of the day. And, I didn't see this coming. I don't know if many people did that NBCSN is folding after this season. I like their stuff. I never thought of it as a big issue. I can see where some people are like, okay, maybe not enough money. But they signed a 7-year deal upwards of $200 million with the Walt Disney Corporation and ESPN, and hockey comes back to ESPN, Brendan. How do you feel about this?
It's not exclusive. Okay.
Yeah.
What people are missing here is NBCSN is going away for one reason only, because they developed Peacock. And like we see with ESPN Plus and all these streaming services, that's the new wave, right? People would rather pay for that and watch it on a Fire TV than pay for cable. So what NBC is doing is they're canceling NBCSN. They're moving it to Peacock and USA. So they're getting it on national TV all the time, basically, because we don't think of USA as a sports network, but every cable package gets it. So it's better for the NHL. And it's also on the streaming service. So now ESPN will have those games on their apps and services. I think they get 25 regular season games on ESPN and ABC live TV. They get a conference final. They get the playoff series. And the rest of it, it's over 1,100 games will be on ESPN Plus and Hulu and the streaming services. So NBC will now have a chance to bid as well for the rest of the games. Every other league has a TV contract that's billions yearly, right?
So they make money.
Okay. This is a $200 million per year deal. They have to at least double that for NBC. NBC has to give no less than $200 million for this to even be a remote success. If they can get over $400 million plus per year for TV rights, that's doubling what they made over the last contract. That's a big upgrade.
So, I mean, obviously, if you go to ESPN.com right now, you have to search for the NHL. It's not even on the main tab. You got to search for it. I do daily articles where I have to get the biggest articles from around the NHL. And I always
into the blackness right now.
Yeah, fading into the darkness like the Sabres. Anyway, so you got to search. Obviously, if hockey's back on ESPN, I'm assuming they'll cover it more. We've always talked about how SportsCenter, you rarely see a hockey highlight. And I listen to a lot of WFAN just because I drive all the time, and I listened to Carmen Roberts, and they were saying, it's not a lie that hockey just doesn't bring in the views as every other sport. It's because NHL really hasn't done a phenomenal job of pushing the sport into areas where it's not the big sport. Whether
saying the NHL has not done a phenomenal job is the biggest understatement of the year.
Okay.
They've done an awful job. Awful, horrendous. Use every single adjective. And NBCSN has done an awful, horrendous job of spreading the sport as well. It needed to go to ESPN.
But
ESPN
do you think
made basketball huge?
So do you think, though, that this is going to have a very big impact on growing the sport, or you just think it's going to people will see, like, there's a lot of people that have never seen hockey or never watched hockey, and now if they're on ESPN, you're going to see more highlights on SportsCenter. You don't think that's going to have a big impact on growing the NHL?
It'll grow. It'll grow the game. It definitely will help, and I think it'll give ESPN reason now to cover it more often as well. So that's always beneficial, especially since a lot of people watch that network. I know hockey fans tend to crap on it all the time because they don't cover the NHL, but the NHL isn't on their channels. Every other sport really is. So you got football, you got basketball, you got baseball, all have games on ESPN. Now the NHL will too. It will give them a reason to cover it. It's big for the sport. The reason I'm saying don't get your hopes up that it's going to grow the game exponentially like it did for the other sports is they're not exclusive yet. So they only have 25 regular season games that are going to be aired on their networks. That's not a lot, and it's going to be mainly streaming for them. So once the 7-year deal ends, if the game continues to grow over those 7 years, now you're looking at ESPN saying, hey, maybe we want to up our game total, and now it becomes more of a bidding war. That's when the game continues to grow. So this is a good step in the right direction, but it's not the final step for growth.
Yes, NBC is in the final season of a 10-year contract worth $2 billion that gives its national NHL rights. But the league will air on multiple networks in their next agreement, like we're seeing now. It's ABC, ESPN, all these other channels. And I just think, we weren't really old enough to appreciate, I think, hockey on ESPN. You're seeing all the fans talking about the old theme song and the old shows they used to have. And I know Linda Cohn does a great job of analyzing hockey. Greg Wisniewski, John Buccigross. I mean, these are just, they have hockey talent. I know someone on Twitter spoke and said, listen, for all people that don't think hockey belongs on ESPN, the people that do cover NHL for ESPN are hockey nuts. They love it, and they say you're gonna see more of them coming out and talking about the sport, which again is just great because I think the biggest thing, if the NHL is not going to help grow themselves, pushing it into areas where hockey's not big, again, like you said, everybody watches ESPN for every other sport. They have exclusive deals with other sports. They're always on TV. I feel like just getting hockey in front will help gain support, or if it's not a success and more people aren't watching, it could be really not a good look for the NHL. So it's a tough thing we're about to see, and hopefully it works out. Hockey fans are going to tune in for sure, but there's a lot of hockey fans that won't go to ESPN to watch stuff, and they'd rather stream just because they don't like what ESPN's done in the past covering hockey. Don't blame them, and they really don't take the time. Every sport radio show, if someone brings up like Boomer and Gio in the morning, Boomer mentions hockey, they boo him. Why are you talking about hockey? So no one likes hockey. They move on. Which I understand because there are all these shows and all these networks. It's about ratings. Why talk about hockey for 10 minutes when no one cares, quote unquote, your viewers don't care when they can talk about football, which will drive their views. I understand that, but if ESPN starts covering hockey more, I feel like radio stations will talk about hockey more, and just people talking about the sport, whether it's positively or negatively. We've talked about it. Negative attention is still attention. That's what the NHL really needs. It just needs eyes on the sport.
Yeah, I completely agree. And maybe ESPN has better lighting than what I have right now, and they could put the Backcheck on ESPN podcast network. I mean, that would be pretty cool if you're trying to grow your hockey content. But like I said, it's a step in the right direction. And I think that they have some very talented people who they let go over the course of the last year and a half that they might now look to bring back, like hockey writers and things like that. So we'll see. I mean, it's definitely an opportunity for the game. And if the NHL can finally market it right, I think with the help of ESPN, they will market it right. That's something that will definitely boost it. And we've seen Twitter stories, right, where people go, oh, I just watched a game of hockey. It's so crazy. Awesome game. I'm going to be a fan now. All it takes is one person in a friend group to say, I just watched a hockey game. You all got to watch this. And now all of a sudden you got a friend group that starts to like it. And that's what they have to do. They have to market it. And we talk about how hard it is to market the game of hockey because it's expensive. It's not really inclusive in regards to who can play it, right? You need to have some type of financial stability to be able to play the sport. It's what's been the common denominator and what's kept it, very non-inclusive, and not everyone can get into it because you can grab a basketball and go to the park. We all do that as a kid. But hockey, you need the equipment, you need the ability to skate, you need ice surface, all that costs money. So I think that if the NHL can partner with ESPN's got that whole studio and facility down there in Florida and Bristol as well, and they could start to, bring more people in and just show them the sport, get them to participate, that'll be huge.
And it doesn't even have to be ice hockey. There's so many ways to play the sport. And I know, ice hockey is the only actual hockey. It's the highest level of hockey. But if for people that can't skate, they look at the rink, they go, I'm not getting into this, or my kid's not going to get into this. They can't skate, do that stuff. Play deck hockey. I'm not going to say I'm the biggest fan of deck hockey, but I like to skate. I've been skating since I was 2 years old. It's more of a natural thing. But for other people, just give them the skate, give them the stick, give them the ball, go on and just play the game. Every sport as a kid teaches you leadership, teamwork, chemistry. Hockey's no different. But I think one of the bigger things is getting fans back in the stands because they can watch on TV all they want. and they'll hear, well, you watch on TV. It's a great sport to watch on TV if you love hockey, but nothing is the biggest advertisement than going to a game and seeing it live. Because to me, biasm aside, all the sports I've gone to see, which I've gone to see all five, if including soccer, I've seen all of them in person. Hockey is by far the most exciting sport. And I remember going to a game at Barclays Center a couple of years ago, and behind me was a camp. It was a camp or a daycare. Kids' first hockey games. There was about 20 of them. And every second I heard in my ear, wow, look at that. There wasn't anything happening. They were just skating and hitting each other. And it took 5-10 minutes for these kids to go, this is just incredible. And we look at it and go, yeah, we've been trying to tell everybody that doesn't watch hockey how incredible it is. I just think people don't give it a chance. And now with ESPN giving it a chance again to bring it back to the major screens, and again, NBC still carrying it, all that stuff, I think it's good for hockey. You just got to keep pushing it in front of as many people. But Brendan, let's sign off here. A couple of minutes to 7 o'clock. Great interview with Chris King. Always a blast having Kinger on the show. He brings the energy that we hope to bring every show as well. And that doesn't matter I don't know what happens with his personal life or anything like that, but it doesn't matter. When the puck drops for an Islander game, this guy's on cloud nine. He just loves what he does. You can hear it in his voice. Great call, Barzal. He got recognition, national recognition, which, a lot of radio broadcasters don't get. It's more TV because not many people listen to the radio, but impressive call. And Brendan, we'll talk again on Sunday, and next week we'll have another great live guest. And in the future, we're already locking up some really cool people. So one thing before we do go, we look at us ranked as a hockey show, and we climbed up the rankings a little bit, and it has been incredible to see, something that started as a quarantine activity for us. Not saying it's blown up, but it's grown. And while we'll go up and down in the rankings and we don't care enough about the numbers right now, we do want to thank all of you for supporting us each week as we do grow. Because again, without you guys, we're just talking. While we love talking to each other about hockey, we'd be nowhere without you guys. So thank you guys so much. We'll catch you again, pre-recorded episode on Sunday. Vinny Parisi will join us to give his Devils talk, and then next week live from 6 to 7. Everyone have a great night, and we'll talk to you again later.
The Backcheck is your one-stop shop for NHL news and all things Rangers and Islanders. Thanks for sticking with us for this edition of The Backcheck. Follow the show on social media at Backcheck Pod.